Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay today. I just want to make a quick video about religion, the secular and democracy. And I believe very passionately that within democracy everybody has to be treated with respect, whoever you are. Um, every voice has to be given the respect. So I believe that public space is for everybody. And if you demean people, if you demonize people within public space, then you're only going to create divisions within society. And I feel that the secularists today in Europe and in America, and that will mean it will spread around the world, those secularists who are running the democracies at the present time, the secular elite, I feel that they have a kind of smugness that I don't think is warranted. They kind of think that the secularism has provided the freedoms that we have in democracy, and therefore that religion does not have a central role to play. Now I understand that there are those on the multicultural side who do want religion to play a role, but on the other side there is principally those who are running the show, the sort of intellectual elitist secularist, who feel that religion is separate from science, it has no intellectual grounding, and therefore it should not have the significance that it tries to claim for itself, and must be kept out of public dialogue, and religion's influence must be subverted. And I think that this kind of elitist secularism needs to be challenged, and it needs to be challenged at the very root of it, and that is a lack of respect. And there is a lack of respect from this elitist secularist who do not see religion as an equal partner within democracy. They don't mind saying that all religions are equal, but that's not what I'm on about. I'm on about the fact that you, as intellectual elites in the West, have a smug attitude that you feel that your position trumps the religious position because your position is rooted in science and the religious position is not. And you're in danger of being hijacked by an aggressive and even more aggressive secularism pushed by the new atheist, who you have a sort of a connection with, but they will hijack your agenda and make your agenda even more aggressive towards religion. And I think that you've made an intellectual and a tactical mistake. The intellectual mistake is, well, on three grounds: on political, intellectual, and tactical. I think you've made a massive mistake politically, because, as John Stuart Mill has said in his book In Liberty, that those who are the minority, if you crush their voice, the majority will never know whether they are right, because they will not be able to defend their position rationally, because they would have crushed the minority who could have challenged them to be able to give reasons for their position. So you, by crushing the minority and not allowing the religious to challenge your position, you're actually setting up the seed for destruction within the democratic process, because people are not going to have the rationale for why they believe in democracy, because you've not allowed people to challenge the basic assumptions of your secular agenda. So the political mistake is you sowing seeds for destruction within your own democracies by silencing the minority, and that is, i.e., the religious position. The second issue is on the intellectual side. The secularist, as elitist, you're emboldened by a scientism. That is the foundation of your secularism. And this is important to you, because for you, religion is not as significant as it used to be, because science, new development in science has shown religion to be not intellectually credible. But that is a particular, not a scientific position, that is a philosophical position that you have made. It is not a scientific position, because science doesn't go either one way or the other for religion. Science, that's not science's job. Science is just there to look at phenomena. So you've made an intellectual decision that you assume is correct without any justification. And what I would say to you, that you've taken a position of scientism, and that is a particular philosophical commitment, and therefore you need to come down a bit and be a bit more, and not just a bit, but see religion as an equal partner with you, and that they have epistemologies that are just as sophisticated as yours, that use science, see science as central as you, but they have a different epistemology, and perhaps more valid than you. And I don't think that you actually realise the mistake that you've made there, and that will sow seeds of resentment within democracies. Because if you, buttressed by your scientism, look at the religious and think that they are not equal partners intellectually, then the religious will become disenfranchised with the democratic process, and you will push some onto the edge where they will engage in more extremist behaviour. So we want to bring people into the democratic process. But how can you bring people into the democratic process if you do not see them as intellectual equals? So your scientism needs to be redefined and allowed to be challenged. So we've looked at the political, we've looked at the intellectual, and then we'll look at the tactical. You've got, as intellectual elites in the West, you've got a job to do, and that job is to maintain democracy. That's what you're there for, actually. You're there to maintain democracy. You're there to uphold democracy, because if democracy falls, then it's all over for us. We're going to enter in a period of utter barbarianism if we start letting nuclear bombs off. So you are one of the linchpins to defend democracy. And you're not defending it right. You're not defending it in the right way. You're not defending it in the true historical contingent of the Western intellectual tradition. You have invented your own understanding of the Western intellectual tradition. And it is an extremist understanding of the Western intellectual tradition, and you're taking that extremist understanding of the Western intellectual tradition, thinking you are in the middle ground when you're not. And it's because of that you are storing up tremendous resentment, tremendous social upheaval within our Western democracies because of the tactical mistake that you have made. You cannot, in all honesty, and with any intellectual credibility, hold on as a secularist elitist intellectual and say to yourself, I am right, I hold the reins of this discourse, and I'm in control of this situation, and feel that that is a legitimate position to be in. Because you are not the all-powerful, you are not fully in control. There are forces going on in our historical flow at this present time that you are not in control, and that you will not be able to control, and that you will make worse with taking that position. You need to make alliances with those who you can work with in order to maintain democracy. You need to encourage and perhaps ditch your position and come into a position of what I would call middle ground, a Christian position on the Western intellectual tradition and democracy. I would call it the white rose position. You remember the White Rose in the Second World War, and the students who opposed Hitler. I would call it the White Rose intellectual tradition. And that's where you need to come. You need to come into the middle ground. And you need to be, as a secularist intellectual, you need to start building alliances with a much wider forces within our democracies. Because I'm telling you, there are forces that have been unleashed and are being unleashed within our Western democracies that your particular brand of secularism is not going to hold ground. It's not going to hold the ground. You're not going to be able to hold the ground. It's not going to be possible. These forces are going to be far too strong for your particular brand of secularism. The only way you are going to be able to hold ground is if you start to make alliances. And that is alliances with moderates who are bought in to the importance of democracy, who are bought into similar values as yourself. And so it's imperative that you right now encourage a renaissance of Christian political scholarship and intellectual debate. It's imperative that you seek out Christian academics within the West and encourage them on the television, in the newspapers, and encourage them to have a dialogue with you and to build alliances with them. Because if you don't, I'm telling you that Islam will begin to flex its muscles in the next 10 to 20 years. And your brand of secularism will crumble before the onslaught. It will crumble. There are only 3 ideologies left that are left. 3 meta-narratives that are really left, that hold sway in the world today. Meta-narrative number 1, Islam. Meta-narrative number 2, Christianity. And meta-narrative number 3, your brand, I say, your brand of secularism. Your brand of secularism. Most of your people are not bought into it as you see it. They are not intellectually equipped as you see it. They are not intellectually bought into it as you see it. If our democracies fail to produce what democracies are to produce, that is the ability to acquire goods and the ability to produce freedom and happiness. If the democracies fail to produce those things, then your brand of democracy will collapse. Because all you'll be left with is a handful of intellectual elites, but the majority of people would have left you. Once democracy fails on the economic level, the intellectual commitment to democracy will vanish like a vapor. And all you'll be left with is a few handful of intellectuals, elitist intellectuals, who've bought into who have defended a particular brand of secularism, standing up against tens of millions of Islamic people who want theocracy within Europe. And you will be brushed aside at the blink of an eye. Because when the Western democracies collapse economically, there'll be a vacuum. And the most competing meta-narrative is Islam. But there is another meta-narrative, and it is Christianity. And if you remember in your history, Europe was Christian. And it's imperative for you to, as an intellectual elite in the West, it's imperative that you start to build alliances with the Christian thinkers in the West. And you begin to engage them, and you begin to encourage them, and you begin to give them influence, and you begin to work together as a team, and you begin to bring an alliance with other groups of intellectuals and people who have bought into democracy, and bring them in and allow them to have political influence and to enter the political arena in our Western democracies. Because if you don't, you are going to be brushed aside in the new flows of history that are going to take place in the next 10 to 20 years. Christianity will still be here. Christianity will still be having an impact. But your brand of secularism will have vanished like a vapor and will not be remembered. It's up to you. My charge to you as an intellectual elite of the West is this: build alliances and encourage a white rose renaissance. Encourage the Christian scholars to get involved with you and to dialogue with them and build alliances with them in preparation for the next 10 to 20 years, where you will see the foundations of democracy shaking, and you need people who have meta-narratives that are able to hold the line, hold the people together, hold our different groups together. And Christianity is something that that can do that. I leave it with you, but I fear that what will happen is this: you're going to be smug, you're going to go on with your agenda, you're going to take no notice, you're going to say no, religion has no scientific viability, it's a washout, religion caused wars in Europe, etc., end of, forget it. No, we're right, we're going, we know best, this is the way. What will happen is there will be stress and strains in democracy. It will not be able to deliver the goods. People will get disillusioned. Democracies economically will collapse. By this time, immigration will have been at an all-time high, and we will find ourselves swamped with tens of millions of Muslims of people all over Europe. They will then demand their political rights in that political vacuum. When they demand their political rights, they will not be bought in to democracy, they will be bought in to theocracy, and we will see one by one Western democracies become theocracies. I have nothing against Islam, I love Muslims, but that is where we're going in the next 10 to 20 years. We're going to be going for theocracy. The only way to stop that is to begin a renaissance of Christian scholarship in the West, and to start now, and to encourage the Christian scholars to come on television programs and to dialogue with you, and for you to build alliances with them, and not just with them but with other people within our society, with Sikhs, with Jews, with other groups, and to build an alliance with these people. Otherwise, it's sayonara to democracy, and it's sayonara to your secularism. Thank you.